We got Svein and Raúl, of course, the infamous owner, and we got our product manager for the whole inflatable. So he's our scientific guy for all those questions. But yeah, let's get into it. What was your idea behind this inflatable? What was the reason to try to make the fastest inflatable board?
It's all about reflex.
Reflex.
So our idea is to create a fantastic reflex at super low weight. So you're not gonna look back there, 20 years ago hanging out.
Exactly.
Windsurfing was all about the reflex in the rig.
Right? Sail and the whole connection between that.
So that the mast is bending, it comes back, it reflexes, and then we're shooting forward with more speed on the board.
Correct.
All right. So it's the same thing when it comes to inflatable paddleboards.
You got the flex, you got the, that makes sense.
So when you, for instance, can you jump over that thing?
We'll jump on here.
Scary. You hadn't done this, all right?
This isn't live, right?
Keep your balance.
Can you work it on a bit? So every time here now, you're gonna up and down. There's a reflex.
Yeah,
And
I can feel that, yeah.
The quicker you pop back, the faster you move forward.
That snap back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if that took a long time to come back, you could have less speed forward.
Yeah, just like that spring or bungee, the quicker the reaction is on the flexor.
And how did you do that? Is one question.
Yeah.
So we were just thinking, what can we do? And again, back in the days when we were windsurfing, we had Arabic strips in the sails to keep them strong, right?
Correct, yeah.
And we thought maybe we can use that similarly on the board.
Correct.
So we thought if you have an Arabic stringer on the bottom and loose one, a cable, like the cable here, then we could, now we're sitting so hard here.
Yeah, so you can see how it runs all the way through to the bottom, you're right.
Right, so it goes here. It ends over there. So what happens is that when we are assembling the board, the stringer, or say the Arabic cable,
Correct.
is maybe a centimeter shorter than the board.
Correct, yeah.
But it will only feel it, the board, the string will only feel this, and the cable will only feel this when Raul comes up to 18 psi. Alright? At that time, that cable is under hypertension.
Yeah, and you're putting tension on it.
And that's why it comes back all the time.
Yeah. Which is really important. I mean, with an inflatable board, you're looking for, of course, the accessibility. You can roll it up, put it in your bag, but then you still want a hard board shape. And I think in the past, we really have dealt with the problems or too much flex, and that's not necessarily the problem. The problem is that flex back up, that spring back up. And personally, I know from racing in a few events and just trying it, with this added stringer, and of course you can talk about it too, but we'll flip it over here too, which I think was actually some of the question. The point of these two PVC stringers going through the entire board. Do you have little sign or little tips on why we did that?
So basically what we're doing with both the twin stringers on the top and the center stringer of the bottom is increasing the stiffness of the board.
Okay.
We are trying to get the board closer to a composite feel. It has to reflex faster, which is why we have the airline.
Correct.
But the twin stringers spread the load and help when you jump on top that the board wouldn't bend as far down as it would if they were on top.
Correct.
The same function is for the one
That goes all the way.
that goes all the way on the bottom, which also covers the airline itself. The Arabic cable described as Svein is covered by the center stringer. So in the end, it's fulfilling two tasks: stiffening the board and covering the cable that makes the board more responsive.
So but to be really true, this is like, to be honest,
Yeah.
the main thing is really this cable. That's what makes the big difference. The other parts a little bit, but here is really where you get the very good value for every gram of weight.
When we first put that on, that was when the light bulb went on in my head. Actually, 2018, I had an event in Georgia, and over there it was basically any kind of board, 14 hardboard, whatever you want, just 14 feet and under. And just for traveling reasons, I decided to bring this board just because it was working so well. It wasn't a huge event with like all my top competitors. Still a lot of good, strong paddlers, but I went there with this board and was able to come out on top against hard paddling boards. They were taking my side draft and then behind the draft, and that's when the light bulb went off. As soon as we added this, there's potential
What did those guys kind of say when you?
Their reactions weren't great, I will admit. But I think as well for them, they were like, wow, okay, there's some potential now. Like inflatables were totally taking off the idea of racing. It was more the touring or the average person just wanting to go down a river really mellowy. Now we're getting a board that has a streamlined outline, stiffer, stronger, and potentially a board that you can win races on, which it has already been proven.
So one thing is sort of on the flats, but I remember in Norway, we went to Norway for a little bit, 3 years ago, and there were a little bit of on the top.
Yeah.
So what kind of impressed me was that the board stayed on top every time. It doesn't stop to vary. It kept on shooting on top like a
kind of flex with the ocean.
Exactly.
That is actually one of the questions that we received from one of the fans. If we would call this board an all kind of water, all kind of condition board, I think you just answered the question. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
You can use it to race in flat water. You can use it on choppy conditions with side wind and with even small waves.
For sure. I mean, the race that I did in Georgia, it was those kind of conditions. It was in a river, so we had flat water up current. We actually got up and above a rapid, went through a rapid section, and then some more flat water and choppy conditions. So in one race, one lap, we got multiple different conditions, and this board worked flawlessly in every one.
I have a question regarding that race. If you can help me flip the board.
Yeah.
On the board, we have 4 different points where we can adjust the tension of the cable and therefore the amount of reflex you get.
Correct.
If you go to the furthest one, you have
Yeah.
the highest reflex, and the front one, you get a little bit less. Do you
Correct.
remember which setting you were using on that race?
For that one, I did go with, I went the third one, so that's kind of in between that. And the reason before that is, I didn't want it so stiff because I was going in the rapids, and just like Sven was talking about in the ocean, that flex with the bump was actually really important. Instead of plowing through it and the nose getting buried, I had some forgiveness, and that would allow me to go over the whitewash or over the rapid through the rapid, for sure. And I guess on that same note too, 4 different conditions, you do want to change the tension, and that's why there's 4 different settings. And maybe you guys have a little more information to that, but basically, right, the furthest one coming closest to us gives it more stiffness, more reaction. And then if we went to the 4th one, that would give us maybe a little less stiffness and reaction. Would there be a time and place when you would want to switch that around?
I think you'd always have that maximum stiffness really.
Yeah.
But you'll also see if you've been using it for a year or 2. At the time, you may want to tighten things up a little bit.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a thing to be aware of.
So then when you tighten it, the 3rd one or the 2nd one could be actually enough and giving you that same stiffness.
Another question we always get is, what is the nose cone here for? And then what it is made of. That's going to go for you. The question on 4, the cone has 2 main tasks. The first one is actually guiding the cable around the nose, so it stays in the middle before you can hook it to the different position of tension you want. It also has a very nice round but pointy shape that will help cut through the bumps and through the waves in a little tougher conditions. So it's not only an aesthetic part, it's also filling up the function of guiding the cable and cutting, piercing through the waves. This cone is made of a very, very special material called Aculon repurposed, and Sven would like to explain to us a little bit more about it.
All right, so I didn't really know that we're going to go into the details, but you have to follow us.
Details are everything. Details are everything.
Our jewelry store over there is like in that street.
Yeah.
So if you come around here, then I'll run the walk. But over here, just don't look at what's down there.
That's some secret stuff.
Secret prototypes, all right? As we come in here, this is kind of our
Jewelry box of fun recycled items.
all kind of good fun, like 40% recycled styrofoam or recycled bottle tops or recycled bottles into different kind of stuff.
And you're making,
So this is all good, and over here is all the cool stuff.
Same stuff, yeah.
So high-grade recycled bottles from Japan. But what we really want to talk about is this one. This is the grade name is repurposed RE30 black. Is Aculon, and it comes from fishing nets. So basically, basically we've been running a program in India
Yeah.
with a company called DSM. So they are then actually collecting all
So you're
fishing
pulling the
nets.
fishing nets out of the ocean, beaches, out of the
I'm
environment.
not able to pull them all myself. But
You
there's
need
a
some strong men,
team
yeah.
on the hand has been doing this for 10 years.
Yes.
And now we integrated with them. And kind of
Basically, we could say that we are cleaning our playground to go play on it.
absolutely.
For sure.
I mean, this is if you look at ocean pollution, the single worst thing we have out there are the ghost nets.
Yeah.
Of course, they get into plastic, small
They
pieces.
break
in
down
there.
over time.
But you know what we have to remember is that actually ghost nets are fishing 5 times more fish as a ghost net compared
Yeah.
to an active net. So it's really
Catching animals and then therefore dying because then they're not getting eaten. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's
they're
super cool.
They're made into something like
Little
this,
pellets?
small pellets, and then we blow it into stuff like
The nose cone,
nose
fins.
cones. This would be, for instance, net positive upcycle fishing nets right here. It's a
Yeah.
side fin. Yeah, so that's
Sweet.
it's a good fun project.
If we move back to the board, I know some of the questions were regarding the app here in the tail area. So we have this little edge right here, and I know how it feels, but what is the science or what is the purpose behind that?
Now imagine I'm water. And
Okay.
I'm flowing all over the surface of the board.
Correct.
If the board were to finish on a round shape, like it used to in the past, eddies, turbulence would build around here, or in this case around the tail,
Yep.
creating drag. Those whirlpools create drag and slow down the board. So the idea is to generate a more laminar flow
Yeah.
behind the board. So when the water comes, it releases off an edge, and then the eddies that occur, they happen back here
Instead of right on the tail.
instead of right on the tail, therefore reducing drag and making the whole board faster.
Yeah. And I guess that rolls right into the next question for you and Sven as well. But have you guys looked into kind of giving the bottom of the board an actual hard board? So like in our previous shapes, we've had concaves. Now we're looking at 2021. We're getting like the cotton depths. Is that something we've thought about, or is that
Yeah.
possible?
We've had some secret developments in some secret places.
We don't want to disclose all the details.
No, not all the details. Okay, I know that was just a question from some of our users. What can they expect? Are we working towards that?
Okay, so you need to understand that to make an inflatable board is either very simple or very complicated.
Yes.
So complicated for us because we have to go in with the weavers to make a drop stitch and see how we can make stiffer weaves with different configurations so we can create shapes.
Correct.
And then that gets sent to those who are coating these drop stitches, and then they get sent to our factory. So we make it a difficult way.
Yeah.
And yes, we have had a lot of experimentation on that for several years.
Yeah.
It's something we will probably see into the future.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we will work further on materials. We'll see some
Materials
different,
and yeah.
different materials. One thing we did a number of years ago, I think we were the first in the world, we took a 3K carbon and we actually laminated it together with PVC.
Yeah.
We worked on it for a year to make sure that it became nice. It wasn't milky.
You
So
can
we
see
have
it
stuff
right
like
there.
this.
Yep.
So you can expect to see more of that in more areas on the future All Stars, but you know that's many years from now, right?
Those watching are very lucky to look that far into the development.
Yeah, you're getting some sneak peeks right there for sure.
Something that is very interesting, and it's a very discussed topic among inflatable boards, is what is the pressure that should go inside the board? And the answer is quite simple. We recommend our boards to be inflated between 15 and 18 psi.
Correct.
It doesn't mean that if you go to 19 psi, your board will break, but it's just that the efficiency you get when pumping up the board doesn't get you too tired, but the board is stiff enough and has a really good feeling when paddling.
Yeah. Then you're not getting that banana sensation.
Exactly.
Of course, we have the PVC like we discussed and the stringer, but I think it's really important to have your board pumped up to that 18 psi for sure.
That makes good sense. If you go 20 and beyond, the board can start to go the other way. So you have like a negative rocker.
Which changes the shape of the board
Yeah.
and the rocker, correct? Yeah, so you can do it too much, so keep that in mind. And you also can do it too little. So if you're doing too little, you're getting the more banana, you're not getting that super stiff and solid board with the stringers activated. And then if you go too much, we might change the rocker. So it's a fine line for sure.
To make it easy, our pumps have a green display.
Yeah.
When you've reached the recommended pressure of 15 to 18 psi, you will be in the green zone, and you know it's perfect. I can stop. I can go paddling.
So Raul, with these kind of things on the side here.
Yeah. So basically, you were using them on your race, right?
Correct. Yeah.
The idea of these standing trays is the following. We try to resemble the dugout concept of composite boards, where you can actually use the sides of the board to balance it out. So if you're doing rail turns or there is side wind or side waves coming, you can lean your weight against it to steer the board and make sure you stay in balance.
Yeah, you definitely, just from using the board in rougher conditions, I found you'll have a secondary stability as well. So the board's not just going to completely roll on you. You can kind of roll and then you'll have a catch. And that's coming from the rail, and you notice we put it just in the standing area, and that's basically the most important. We want the water flowing around the rails all up in here. Standing area, we want as much stability, and you're basically lowering the center of gravity just a little bit here, and having, like Raul said, some pressure on your feet.
So you know, this is, I think they come out to 24 inch, and
Yes,
it becomes not so much space, because from this point, which is maybe about 20 inch, 19, 20 inch, it starts to come down. So it isn't comfortable to stand like this. It's like standing like here is not great, right? So much better to have your feet that way, get more balance. So that's another good benefit. You stand like this instead of like that. So you can basically carry on with one narrow board.
And while trying to solve the stability issue, we also gain another benefit for the board, which is some extra stiffness in the standing area, because these foams are very hard to fold. Actually, we recommend our users to fold the board
instead of rolling it
over these lines so they don't damage them, because they're so stiff that when you can go paddling, they actually reinforce the standing area where you're usually paddling before you start.
And that's always the biggest problem in a lot of inflatables. It's right where you stand, you can then see the board kind of bend from that area. So that's always adding that stability and that stiffness right in the section. Another question that was asked is how I would prepare basically for an inflatable race, which I've only done a few compared to like a hardboard race. More or less the same. I mean, preparing for a race is preparing for a race. The only difference is giving myself, I guess, the extra 10 minutes to pump the board up. But I use that as my warm-up. That's the pre-race warm-up, is getting the board up to that 18 psi. And other than that, it's the same game plan as always, and that's to go out there and do my best and bring some trophies back for this guy.
I'll just put the trophies in.
Yeah, that's where the bungees come into play, right?
So basically, with the new pump we've introduced in 2020, you will have to be very careful because your warm-ups will be shorter.
Shorter?
Yeah, so the new pump is more efficient. We've actually made it 15% more efficient than the one from the previous seasons.
Yeah.
And that's going to make it easier for you to get your inflatable ready for going. But if you're a corner backstander and you're also warming up for a race, you're going to have to do something else preparing for that race.
A little dynamic warm-up included, but there for sure.
Run a few laps.
So it's making it easier to pump and making it quicker as well?
Yeah, so basically there are two systems in the pump. I wish I had it here, but it's not a problem. We have changed the shape of the cylinder inside the pump, so the flow of the air is better. And now there are two cylinders changing the area where the air flows. And fluid dynamics says if you make something narrower, it will go faster.
Correct.
And if it goes faster into your board, you have less loss of air. Therefore, you can inflate it faster.
So each time you're pumping, you're losing just a little bit.
Exactly.
So the faster you're getting it up.
Exactly. So it's more efficient, it's more comfortable, it's ergonomic, and it makes you have to do a warm-up afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Was there any live feed questions on there, or?
Not yet, just a lot of friends saying hello. Hello, friends.
Well, I remember there was a question about a race. If you were planning to race in Asia anytime soon?
Yeah, there's the surf and the race in the 2020, so coming up soon. Wasn't on the schedule, but especially if it's on inflatables, that's what makes it so easy. It's a suitcase, and you don't need to necessarily plan ahead. I don't know exact dates, but that's very interesting, and potentially I know Dan will be going, and maybe you'll see me over there and use the airline to go crush it out there.
Another good thing about this board, if it's a race with beach start,
Yeah.
we also have these amazing beach start handles, so you can actually carry your board like this, and it's more comfortable to run
For running into the water.
towards the water and jump over your board because you don't have to hold it only on one
And
hand.
then roll it.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely utilize that in the Salt Lake event because we have to run above the rapids and then come down the rapids, so it was definitely key. And you can then use this board as touring, you can strap stuff if you're going to cruise, the paddle can go in there.
Exactly.
It's useful more than one way for sure.
Well, I think
Yeah.
if we have no more questions, do you
Yeah.
Sven have any more questions or comments? Otherwise,
Yeah, otherwise we're circling down to the end here and yeah.
Yeah. We have to leave now. Nice.
It's about that time, right?
how about we say a big coffee cup to everybody?
Yeah. Thank you
Yes,
guys
yeah.
for tuning in. Appreciate you guys' time. Hope you guys learned anything. And for the people that missed the live feed and tuning back, of course you can comment in there or send direct message to myself or Raul or to the Starboard account, and we'll be sure to answer those
Let's
questions
stay
for
on
you.
top. Cheers, guys.